priority. Supporters of the moraine in my riding and across Southern Ontario are thrilled with this new initiative, just as they were with the announcement of the National Conservation Plan last year. By working together, Mr. Speaker, we can ensure that the Oak Ridges moraine and other ecologically important lands are conserved and enjoyed for generations to come.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Beauharnois-Salaberry. Every morning, men and women leave their homes to go to work to provide for the needs of their families. Our work and our skills and expertise means pride and dignity for all of us. Canadian workers contribute to the economic growth of our country, and it is thanks to us that Canada is the country it is today. Unfortunately, workers' rights are increasingly under threat. Wages are stagnating, full-time and permanent jobs are getting more and more rare, and some families cannot make ends meet even when they do work. In the meantime, the Conservatives continue to give gifts to the wealthy few and to turn their backs on those who work to the sweat of their brow, those who build this country. The next NDP government will help all workers. Our tax measures and public programs will benefit all Canadians, so they can say that they are harvesting the fruits of their labour with dignity. It's high time that we put in place a government for the people. Tonight, I will join the workers in my riding at the Grand Assembly organized by the Interunion Cotton 46, which will bring together different union representatives from in the Montérégie region. Music, barbecue, and gumboots will be on the menu. Today, May 1st, International Workers' Day, I'd like to thank and commend all workers.
For Selkirk Interlake.
Mr. Speaker, this week is Iran Accountability Week, a week to address the Iranian threat. I'm proud to be part of the Iranian Political Prisoner Advocacy Program. This year I'm advocating for Dr. Omid Kokabi, a 33-year-old Iranian experimental laser physicist. He has attended university in Iran, Spain, and Texas. During a family visit to Iran in 2011, he was arrested and has been in detention in Tehran's notorious Evin prison ever since. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being convicted of the unsubstantiated charges of communicating with a hostile government, being Americans, and receiving illegitimate funds. The so-called illegitimate funds are actually the normal stipend given to doctoral students at the University of Texas. Dr. Kokabi has publicly said that he's being persecuted for repeatedly refusing to work on Iranian military projects and help fulfill Iran's nuclear ambitions. Dr. Kokabi is yet another example of the travesty of justice in Iran, and his imprisonment is a flagrant abuse of human rights. I call on President Rouhani to exercise clemency, suspend his sentence, and immediately release Dr. Kokabi.
The honourable member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to draw attention to a serious issue that has affected the lives of far too many Canadians, the physical punishment of children. This hurtful practice affects the cognitive, emotional, and physical development of kids and can result in lifelong repercussions. Shockingly, Section 43 of the Canadian Criminal Code still permits this cruel form of punishment, an archaic flaw in our legal system, to say the least. Meanwhile, over 40 countries around the world have banned the physical abuse of children. Federal civil servant Corinne Robertshaw became concerned about reports of child injuries and deaths caused by parents and caregivers and dedicated her life to repealing Section 43. An advocacy group called Corinne's Quest was started in her name. I want to thank Vancouver Quadra constituent Barbara Claridge and Steering Committee Chair Kathy Lynn for their work on this important cause. I invite all parliamentarians to work together towards ending the physical punishment of children on behalf of the health and well-being of Canadian children today and for future generations.
Honourable member for Peace River.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The positions the NDP has taken on natural resource projects are extreme and alarming, and Albertans have a right to be concerned. The NDP has called for a royalty review and have come out against Northern Gateway, an essential energy infrastructure project for getting oil to international markets. The last royalty review cost the province billions of dollars in investments and cost thousands of Albertans their jobs. It also shook the confidence of the Alberta economy, and that is the last thing that Alberta needs right now. The NDP is calling for higher taxes on job creators, which will kill jobs right across the province. Unlike the path that the NDP would go down, our Conservative government is dropping taxes on lowering taxes on entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, the Alberta NDP is taking their cues from the folks across the way. They're supporting higher taxes that Albertans cannot afford. They will kill jobs that Albertans desperately need, and they'd bring forward a job-killing carbon tax that would raise the price on everything.
The honourable member for Toronto Danforth.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to mark World Press Freedom Day on May 3rd to pay tribute to the essential work that journalists do to inform the public and to speak truth to power. I also pay special tribute to Kathy Gannon, who has received this year's Press Freedom Award. I also can't let the moment pass without again drawing attention to Egypt's treatment of Canadian journalist Mohamed Fahmy, who remains in legal jeopardy and is still not home. As a former commissioner for the Civil Society Truth Commission established after the 2009 coup in Honduras, I came to better understand the bravery of a principled press. Honduras was the most dangerous place for media professionals in the world. Intimidation, threats to family members, assaults, multiple assassinations, forced exile. Today, too little attention is being paid to the deteriorating situation in another country. I speak of Turkey, where the government has been launching raids on media institutions and detaining journalists in large numbers. Turkey must step back from its deeply worrisome drift into repressive rule. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Yesterday in this chamber, the opposition parties decided to filibuster the proceedings of the House. Led by the NDP member from Skeena Bulkley Valley, the opposition party shamefully chose to trash the RCMP Hill security members as the subject of their filibuster. They chose to criticize the RCMP and complain about being held up on their trip to the House for a mere few minutes due to the security measures deemed necessary by the RCMP to protect the precinct of the Hill. Mr. Speaker, the RCMP have a job to do, and they do it every day with the potential always that they may find their lives at risk to protect us. Mr. Speaker, I want to counter the amateur experts in the opposition and put on record my praise and appreciation of the RCMP and the job they do to protect us. And yes, Mr. Speaker, that protection also includes those opposition members who so recklessly scorned them yesterday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in this House today in recognition of Lyme Disease Awareness Day. Lyme disease is a debilitating illness that can be transmitted to humans through the bite of a black-legged tick. The disease is on the rise across Canada, and particularly in my home province of Nova Scotia. However, our government has taken action to combat this potentially fatal disease. We consider the health and safety of Canadians one of our top priorities. We are currently working with the provincial health authorities and other partners to inform Canadians of the risk of Lyme disease. We are increasing health transfers to the provinces, and these funds can help further combat Lyme disease. I had the honour of participating in the debate on a national Lyme disease strategy last year, and I'm proud to say that this bill will help protect Canadians, will help protect the well-being of all Canadians. As Member of Parliament for South Shore St. Margaret's and as resident of Lunenburg County, I'm very aware of how much Lyme disease affects us all.
The honourable member for Louis-Hébert. Mr. Speaker, government programs and services must contribute to the well-being of our society. Recently, an organization in my riding, Entraide Sainte-Foy, was refused a grant under the New Horizon program for seniors. When I learned the reasons for the refusal, I realized there must have been a problem with how the application was interpreted, and I politely asked the minister to reconsider her decision. The seniors of Entraide Sainte-Foy provide transportation, visits, and caregiving respite to seniors who are losing their autonomy, and they did so over 14,500 times last year. Entraide Sainte-Foy seeks to engage its volunteers by creating new training sessions that reflect the realities of our aging population. This was an innovative project that met all the eligibility criteria. But instead of admitting it had made a mistake, this government simply tried to save face. Mr. Speaker, governing means encouraging and supporting the vitality of society stakeholders and supporting innovation in all its forms. To have a real government to serve all, people will have to wait till the next elections when we will come to power.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, our government has provided important and significant support for Canadian seniors. We provided the largest increase to the guaranteed income supplement in 25 years, introduced income splitting for seniors, and doubled the pension income credit. This, among other measures, has removed over 380,000 seniors from tax rolls. Our recent budget further supports seniors by increasing the tax-free savings account limit, creating the new home accessibility tax credit, and expanding the EI compassionate benefit to 6 months. But, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and the NDP believe that seniors' hard-earned savings are just another opportunity to tax. Canadian seniors know that they can trust our government to lower their taxes and provide the support and programs that they need.
The honourable member for Nanaimo-Cowichan.
Mr. Speaker, rivers in my riding of Nanaimo-Cowichan are in trouble. We are known as the wet coast, but climate change is leaving our rainforest parched. This winter brought only 15% of the normal snowpack, meaning the spring melt will bring less water to refresh our watersheds. And the El Niño system in the Pacific may mean a hotter and drier summer. Last August, a weir was used to slow the amount of water released into the Cowichan River so there would be enough flow when salmon returned to spawn. The Nanaimo River is healthier, but its winter steelhead run is in trouble, putting at risk a successful fishery and tourism industry. The Chemainus, Coxsila, and the Nitnat rivers are all affected by logging, overfishing, and urbanization. The 2012 Conservative budget removed environmental protection for these rivers and cut fisheries habitat protection, funding many communities use to build side channels and increase awareness of impacts of logging and farming practices. Many of my constituents see how climate change is affecting our ecosystem. People are working together to mitigate its effects, but we cannot do it as a single community. We need the federal government to work with us, not against us.
For London North Centre.
Mr. Speaker, we know that the Liberals and the NDP like big deficits and higher taxes. My constituents in London North Centre know that it is only our Conservative government that will lower taxes for the middle class. And when I was speaking to middle-class families in my riding last weekend, Mr. Speaker, they told me that they are looking forward to receiving benefits from the family tax cut and especially the enhanced universal childcare benefit. Our plan is helping 100% families with kids put almost $2,000 back in their pockets. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on keeping more money in the hands of the real experts, moms and dads.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
For Mount Royal.
Yesterday, an all-party parliamentary group launched the 4th annual Iran Accountability Week at a most propitious time, as the P5+1 nuclear negotiations with Iran have overshadowed, if not sanitized, the Iranian regime's massive domestic repression, including a horrific execution binge, intensified persecution of the Baha'i minority, criminalization of dissent, mocking World Press Freedom Day, and some 900 political prisoners languishing in Iranian prisons, many of them subject to torture and under threat of execution. Accordingly, a centerpiece of Iran Accountability Week is the Global Iranian Political Prisoner Advocacy Project, which pairs parliamentarians with adopted Iranian political prisoners on whose behalf we advocate, which seeks to make their case and cause our own, such as on those on whose behalf I'm privileged to advocate, the Baha'i 7 and Ayatollah Bourjedi. And so, Mr. Speaker, we stand in solidarity with these brave heroes. Let them know that they are not alone, that we will not relent until their freedom and that of the Iranian people is secured. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Northumberland, Quinte West.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are shocked by the devastation and destruction caused by the earthquake in Nepal. Our hearts go out to all those who have lost their loved ones and now must try to move on and rebuild. As always, when disaster strikes, Canada is quick to respond. 2 C-17 Globemaster strategic lift aircraft from the RCAF have already delivered humanitarian aid and were also made available to evacuate Canadians from Kathmandu. An assessment group from Canada's Disaster Assistance Response Team is on the ground and assessing exactly what is needed and where our aid needs to go. We have also contributed $5 million in immediate assistance and will match donations made by Canadians like Rotarians and Lions and Kinsmen. We also acted to ensure that additional consular staff were made available and deployed to provide assistance to Canadians. I want to take this opportunity to thank our officials on the ground and the members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are doing a great job despite the challenges presented by weather, terrain, and the sheer scope of this disaster.
The honourable member for York South Weston.
Mr. Speaker, it's May Day. And as the rest of the world celebrates Labour, some parties here in Ottawa seem to think it's still the 19th century when it comes to Labour rights. Liberals and Conservatives voted together against job protections for firefighters. They voted against protection for pregnant or nursing mothers, and the Liberals have now lined up to attack basic Labour rights on Parliament Hill by saying that unions shouldn't be allowed space to work or to organize. The president of UFCW said, quote, "It sends a message from the Liberal Party of Canada that unions and the Labour movement can be abused in the eyes of the public and in Parliament." The president of the United Steelworkers says that Liberals have, quote, "chosen to attack a fundamental trade union right for partisan purposes." Being a friend of Labour doesn't just mean putting on your best suit, showing up at the Labour Hall, calling people brother. It's about having your actions match your words, something we've never seen from either the Liberals or the Conservatives.
The honourable member for Cumberland, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the leader of the NDP claimed that our new family tax cut and enhanced universal child care benefit were giveaways. Now, the NDP are actually upset that thanks to our budget, people will have more money in their pockets to spend as they wish. They think they're entitled to their money. That's the NDP plan, and that's the Liberal plan for Canada. They want higher taxes on Canadian families, higher taxes on middle-class seniors, higher taxes on middle-class consumers. Mr. Speaker, we all know their plan is not right for Canada. That's why our Conservative government is reducing taxes, making life more affordable for every hard-working family in this country. Absolutely. We will never apologize for leaving 100% of the families in this country better off. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister's foot and mouth disease continues. First he said he'd leave problems to our grandchildren. Then he said he has no idea how many jobs, if any at all, his budget would create. And yesterday, when asked about the 1,000 jobs lost at GM Oshawa, he replied he's looking forward to October. Do they have no sympathy for the families who just lost their jobs and possibly their futures? Why do the Conservatives consistently put their own narrow self-interest ahead of working Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our thoughts are with the workers and their families during this difficult time. We have a strong record of protecting jobs and growing manufacturing jobs. Budget 2015 created the Automotive Supplier Innovation Program that will create jobs for Canada's automotive industry. More than 25,000 businesses in the manufacturing sector have taken advantage of the accelerated capital cost allowance, allowing them to invest back in their business, resulting in $1.4 billion in tax relief. Mr. Speaker, we know the NDP would take that away from them. We won't let that happen.
Honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, 1,000 people found out they would lose their jobs. 1,000 families reeling, looking to find some way to make ends meet. And yet the Conservatives are more interested in their election scheming than they are in helping them find new jobs. These families are out of work because of this government's unbalanced approach to the economy. And as a result, we've lost more than 400,000 manufacturing jobs on their watch. Why did the Conservatives ignore these families in a budget that gives billions in handouts to the wealthy few?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the claims of that member are 100% false, Mr. Speaker. This was a restructuring plan, first of all, that was announced in 2012. General Motors has advised us that nearly all of the restructuring will be achieved by the voluntary retirement of some workers at its Oshawa facility. Mr. Speaker, GM continues to make capital investments in Ontario facilities, including plants in Ingersoll, Ontario, and St. Catharines, Ontario. GM also announced this week that they are hiring 100 engineers at their Oshawa plant for research and development work. That's right.
The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Well, if the member thinks he's got such great news, go on down to Oshawa and take that answer. The report, Mr. Speaker, the report on sexual assault in the military has shocked and outraged all Canadians. And it's more outrageous that the government is only accepting 2 of 10 recommendations in the report. Time to study implementation is one thing. But what we're seeing here is a real resistance to putting an independent body in place to handle complaints. Mr. Speaker, the military justice system obviously needs a major overhaul. Since the government has said they fully support the report, will they now commit to fully implementing the report immediately?
About Parliamentary Secretary for National Defence.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we want to thank Madame Deschamps for her report. This is not a partisan issue. There is no place for sexual abuse and misconduct within the Canadian Armed Forces. The Chief of the Defence Staff, General Tom Lawson, has accepted the report's recommendations and is acting upon them. Since 2006, our government has continuously fought on behalf of victims and enhanced the laws in this country to combat sexual assault.
St. Lambert.
Honourable Member for St. Lambert. Mr. Speaker, Madame Justice Deschamps' report emphasized the degree to which the Army has failed to protect its own members by tolerating a culture of sexual misconduct where it is commonplace. In 2014, two Actualité journalists revealed that since 2000, there have been on average 178 complaints of sexual assault per year within the Canadian Armed Forces, and that hundreds of other cases have been ignored. Why has the minister waited so long to take measures to put an end to this scandal?
Mr. Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, nobody who has chosen to stand on guard for Canada should have to put up with this disgusting behavior. Now, the Chief of Defence Staff has stood up the Strategic Response Team under the leadership of Major General Christine Whitecross. And she was clear yesterday that the Canadian Armed Forces is looking at how to best implement the report's recommendations in order to stop sexual abuse in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Honourable Member for St. Lambert. Madame Justice Deschamps' report requires a strong and immediate response from the government. The Chief of Defence Staff promised an action plan but doesn't seem to know what the government expects of him. Well, what Canadians expect is the protection and respect for women within the Canadian Armed Forces. Will the minister tell his Chief of Defence Staff so that he can put in place all of the recommendations proposed in the report?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the CDS, the Chief of Defence Staff, has been very clear. Major General Christine Whitecross has been very clear. They're looking at how they can best implement all of the recommendations and ensure that complaints are handled and received properly in a modern system. And the Chief of Defence Staff also said yesterday that within the Canadian Forces there needs to be a cultural shift.
Good. The Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday when I asked a question on the subject of the waning Canadian economy, the Minister of Finance was not even able to answer the question. His colleagues had to do his job for him. The economy shrank in January. The growth predictions have been revised downwards, but the minister cannot offer a single word to explain his lack of action. When will he present a real plan for jobs and economic growth?
Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows that the strong leadership of this Conservative government has steered Canada out of the global recession, creating nearly 1.2 million net new jobs. Our government is continuing to introduce new job-creating measures in Budget 2015, such as lowering the small business tax rate to 9%, providing manufacturers an accelerated capital cost allowance so they can invest back into their business, supporting young entrepreneurs through Futurepreneur Canada, and now, Mr. Speaker, a new public transit fund that will invest in infrastructure in our major cities.
The Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, while the minister hides his head in the sand, Canadians are losing their jobs. Right. Yesterday, GM announced that they will cut 1,000 jobs this year from their Oshawa plant while growing their American operations, and analysts say this is just a start. This is not a problem for the Prime Minister's granddaughter. This is a problem for 1,000 Oshawa families today. This is a problem for the minister.
That's you, Colin.
Now. When can we expect him to do something?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker, certainly we understand the loss of those families, and our thoughts are with them at this very difficult time. But, Mr. Speaker, again, we have a strong record of job-creating measures, and we've created 1.2 million net new jobs. And this new budget, Budget 2015, Economic Action Plan, has invested again in job creation measures, also in measures to help the Canadian Automotive Association, manufacturing. Mr. Speaker, we know that with all the measures that we've brought, the opposition has voted against them. Canadians know they're better off with this.
The honourable member for Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, the government brags about stale job numbers that are 3 and 4 and 5 years old. Nothing more recently. Job growth and job quality have been dropping. In all of last year, just 121,000 new jobs in the whole country. That's down 60% from 2 years ago. Job quality is at a 25-year low, and economic growth is pathetic. In fact, the economy has grown only once in the last 4 months. Why is the government's plan such an utter failure, and why don't they have a job creation target?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, again, the Canadian manufacturing industry and its workers are one of the key engines of the Canadian economy, representing a vital source of jobs and economic growth for many communities. That's why we're investing in them. That's why Economic Action Plan 2015 invests in job creation and the manufacturing sector. We've brought forward measures that have created 1.2 million net new jobs, but in this budget, encouraging investment in Canadian manufacturing sector, fostering the automotive supply innovation, removing financial barriers. Mr. Speaker, those involved in this industry commend us on the measure.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday GM announced another 1,000 jobs will be cut in Oshawa this year. More than 400,000 manufacturing jobs have been lost under this Conservative government. Now it has introduced another budget that fails the middle class and working families. The finance minister didn't even bother to try to figure out if his budget would create any jobs. Why are the Conservatives giving billions to the wealthy while middle class, working families and future generations pay the price?
Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, again, our thoughts are with the workers and their families during this most difficult time. Our government has brought forward measures in Budget 2015. Our government reduced EI premiums for small businesses. We've eliminated tariffs on machinery, making Canada the first tariff-free zone for manufacturing inputs in the G20. We negotiated trade agreements so that our products can get into countries around the world. And we've lowered business taxes, Mr. Speaker. We know that the NDP has a high-tax, high-spend plan. Mr. Speaker, that will kill jobs. We aren't going to let that happen.
Member London Fanshawe.
Speaker, Conservatives have utterly failed the auto sector, failed the manufacturing sector, and failed the 1.3 million Canadians out of work. Canadians are working harder and falling further and further behind. But instead of helping to create jobs in Canada, the Conservatives loaned Volkswagen $526 million to create jobs in Mexico. And now another budget with no manufacturing strategy. Why are Conservatives abandoning the middle class, working families, and the manufacturing sector?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for her question. She knows that as a result of our government's strong leadership, that Canada has the strongest job creation record in the entire G7, the most industrialized countries. Economic Action Plan 2015 will create more jobs, will build on that excellent record. Reducing the tax rate for job-creating small businesses. Mr. Speaker, they oppose this measure. Investing in federal infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, introducing a new public transit fund. We know that the Liberals and the NDP have a high-tax, high-spend plan that will kill jobs. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. People are right to be unhappy with that budget. Quebec lost 115,000 manufacturing jobs under the Conservatives, and in Canada, for the second month in a row, manufacturing output has declined. We've learned that 300 Bell helicopter workers will also lose their jobs in Mirabel. Does the Minister of Finance have any way to explain to me how his budget is only offering gifts to the wealthy rather than investing in well-paid jobs in our manufacturing sector in Quebec?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, our record is clear. 1.2 million net new jobs since the depths of the recession. Economic Action Plan is full of job-creating measures. Let me read a few. Creating and promoting Canadian tourism, the labour market integration of new Canadians, and the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program. Mr. Speaker, measures like this are going to help create jobs, they're going to help build a strong economy, and Mr. Speaker, Canadians know they're better off with this Conservative.
L'Honourable Deputy.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Mr. Speaker, when the Conservatives refuse to even recognize there's a problem, how can Canadians hope they'll put appropriate solutions in place? It's not just in the manufacturing sector that there's a problem. We're talking about many other sectors in Quebec. The Minister of Finance for the province of Quebec said that the increase in the TFSA limit will cost Quebecers $65 million a year. Those are millions Quebec cannot be able to use to unclog the hospitals, for example, repair roads, or create jobs. When will the Conservatives stop offering gifts to the wealthiest while handing the bill to the middle class?
State. Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government tabled a low tax plan that will help create jobs for businesses. It's a low tax plan for families. Mr. Speaker, this budget 2015 Economic Action Plan will help create jobs. We know that the Liberals and the NDP want high taxes on the middle class. They want a high spending carbon tax. They want a high taxes on middle class seniors. They want high taxes on middle class consumers. That's their plan. High taxes on everyone. Our Conservative government is reducing taxes on the middle class. Mr. Speaker.
Order. L'Honourable.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille. Tell that to workers who have just lost their jobs. The middle class is paying for the Conservatives' bad economic management. The manufacturing sector is losing ground for the second month in a row. Under the Conservatives, we've lost over 400,000 well-paid jobs in the manufacturing sector. On Montreal's North Shore in my area, another 300 Bell helicopter workers have been laid off. Rather than passing a budget that will favor the rich, will the government finally take job creation seriously?
State for Finance. Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government has brought forward a low tax plan for business. Mr. Speaker, we know that when we tax business higher, as the New Democrats would do, that it hurts jobs. People are laid off. The CFIB said that if you increase payroll taxes, they may, up to 60% of the businesses said they would reduce their workforce. Mr. Speaker, we eliminated tariffs on machinery. We're making Canada the first tariff-free zone. We are lowering taxes, corporate taxes to 15%, small business tax to 9%. We know the NDP would reverse it. We know that.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny-Lake-Oscar-Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives, under the Conservatives, the Canadians are having a harder time finding good jobs, and they're accumulating debt. And at the same time, banks are recording record profits, billions of dollars per year. So the gulf between the two is just going to get bigger. Fees will be charged to Canadians when they're paying their mortgage payments. Now, this is outrageous. Will the Conservatives continue to ignore the abuse of their banker buddies, or are they going to quickly pass a mandatory code of conduct for the banking sector?
Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, again, we are the only government that has stood up for consumers by lowering taxes and putting more money back into their own pockets. Unlike the Liberals and the NDP that would raise taxes on the middle-class consumers, our government has consistently reduced taxes on the middle class. Our government has taken action to improve low-cost bank accounts and expand no-cost banking options for more than 7 million Canadians. We introduced the debit and credit card code of conduct. Shamefully, they vote.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Well, they did introduce a code of conduct, Mr. Speaker, but it's a voluntary code of conduct. And that voluntary code of conduct gives the banks a blank check to charge new fees on everyday transactions that hammer middle-class Canadians. Transactions like making a mortgage payment, making a student loan payment. Why? Seniors, even children are going to be affected by these new pay-to-pay fees, Mr. Speaker. A voluntary code of conduct doesn't cut it. When will this government have the backbone to stand up against the banks, stand up for Canadians against these fees?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, this Conservative government is the only government that consistently stands up for the consumer. We bring forward consumer measures, Mr. Speaker. Consistently, the NDP vote against it. Unlike the Liberals who would raise taxes, we're lowering taxes for the consumers. Mr. Speaker, just listen to what the Public Interest Advocacy Centre had to say about our government's actions. We support, and I quote, the establishment of a financial consumer code which would be binding upon financial institutions subject to the federal government authority. Mr. Speaker.
Order, order, order. The Honourable Member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's not just consumers that are paying the price for Conservative choices. It's also over 1 million Canadians who paid into EI, lost their jobs through no fault of their own, and expect it to be there when they need it. Right. But instead of making sure that EI is there for them, the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, are raiding the EI fund of billions. Mr. Speaker, EI is paid for by workers and businesses. When will the Conservatives stop raiding the EI fund to give handouts to the wealthy few?
Honourable Parliament and Secretary for Employment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honourable member for his question. Of course, the EI fund was supplemented by the general revenue from taxpayers during the recession. Now it's being returned back to the general revenue for taxpayers. But the focus of our EI program is to make sure that if you lose your job due to no fault of your own, the EI program will be there for you, for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the EI program is sound. It works. Please stand up and support the EI program. Support the workers in this country.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
It's hard to get lower than gutting EI just to pay for benefits for the rich, but these callous Conservatives just don't seem to care. Thousands of families are struggling to make ends meet, and they're getting absolutely no help from this government. Instead, 1,000 more auto workers are now out of work. And add to that, 400,000 manufacturing jobs already lost under this government. When will the Conservatives own up to their dismal job numbers and introduce a real plan to create and protect family-sustaining jobs?
Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our thoughts are with the workers and their families during this difficult time. Mr. Speaker, our government has a strong record of protecting and growing manufacturing jobs. Budget 2015 created the Automotive Supplier Innovation Program that will create jobs in Canada's automotive industry. More than 25,000 businesses in the manufacturing sector have taken advantage of the accelerated capital cost allowance, allowing them to invest back in their business, creating more jobs. Mr. Speaker, the opposition votes against these measures. We know we'll stand up for the consumers and the workers.
Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, the Deschamps report on sexual harassment in the military outlines a culture of sexualization and abuse, particularly against women and GBLTQ members. This is inexcusable. This must be fixed now. The report lays out 10 recommendations for how to begin turning this horrific situation around. Yesterday, the government claimed to accept all 10 recommendations, but the Chief of Defence Staff said he only accepts 2 and will study the rest. Who is telling the truth, the military or the government?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd just like to remind this member that it was the Chief of Defence Staff that ordered this independent external review by Madam Chief Justice Deschamps. And I can tell you that they have received the report, they've accepted the recommendations, and are now currently looking at how they implement those recommendations. And the Chief of Defence Staff has stood up the strategic response team led by Major General Christine Whitecross.
Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Well, no answer there. This government has allowed this abusive and misogynistic situation in the Canadian Armed Forces to persist. The military has both condoned inappropriate and abusive behavior and turned a blind eye or punished those who complained. The minister is accountable for his department, and a phantom action plan is simply not enough. Will the government take full responsibility for allowing this toxic behavior, apologize to the victims, and make sure the abusers and enablers are held to account?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, this is not a partisan issue. You know, our thoughts are with the victims. You know, we find this abuse completely disgusting. That is why the Chief of Defence Staff went and asked for this report. And they are reviewing and going to be implementing these recommendations to ensure that this culture is changed, that they are able to increase public education and awareness, and provide a safe vehicle for complaints to come forward.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent-Cartierville. Mr. Speaker, it's sad to have to point it out, but according to the law, the Minister of Defence is responsible for the Canadian Forces. He's responsible for all national defence issues. Why is the Minister not answering himself to the searing report on sexual harassment in the armed forces? Why did he not ensure that resources be provided in the budget to protect the victims of this abuse? Will he excuse himself personally to them, and will he ensure that the Deschamps report is implemented?
Mr. Speaker, you know, Major General Christine Whitecross was clear yesterday. They're looking at how they can best implement the report's recommendations, like providing the proper services and support to the victims, to ensure that victims can come forward without fear of repercussion, and that the culture within the Canadian Armed Forces changes. We are supporting the Canadian Armed Forces in this endeavour, and we thank Madame Deschamps for her report.
The Honourable Member for Toronto Danforth.
Canada's gone from climate change laggard under the Liberals to climate change embarrassment under the Conservatives. Weakened and missed targets, a caucus that's a safe haven for climate deniers. And now the Prime Minister is saying our next set of targets won't even match the U.S. After he spent 10 years telling us that we would harmonize with the U.S. Canada needs to bring new targets to Paris this year. Our contribution is absolutely crucial. When will the government announce new, ambitious targets to fight the climate crisis?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have always said that to effectively reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, all major emitters must be on board. We have aligned regulations with the United States in several areas, and we are working closer together to developing clean energy. Canada has one of the cleanest electricity supplies, with 80% of our economy coming from sources that emit no greenhouse gas emissions. The United States has only 30%. At home, our government is reducing greenhouse gas emissions while growing the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois-Salaberry. Climate change is one of the biggest threats we face, Mr. Speaker, and the government's solution is to try to hide their incompetence behind PR spin. Great. The result? Ever lower reduction targets, no regulations for major emitters, basically not much hope on the horizon. Is this another problem the government intends to saddle the Prime Minister's granddaughter with?
Mr. Speaker, we will submit Canada's greenhouse gas emission targets in sometime this month or next month. Greenhouse gas emission targets reflect actions by all levels of government, so we are seeking additional information from the provinces and the territories on how they intend to meet their targets. Conservative government is the first government in Canadian history to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and we will continue to take actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions without the job-killing carbon tax. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Argenteuil-Papineau-Mirabel. 3 years after the big E. coli contaminated beef recall at XL Foods, nothing's going right. 4 cases of contaminated beef were reported by U.S. inspectors last year. Plant workers aren't always getting clean clothes, and some washrooms don't even have running water. But if anyone's washing their hands of this situation, it's the Conservatives. Why is the government taking food safety so lightly?
Mr. Speaker, action was taken back in 2014 and prior, and all issues have been resolved and none have been left outstanding. I think it's important to note that nearly 40 inspection staff are on the ground in this facility every single day. And for additional reassurance, CFIA is sending an inspection verification team. Again, I think for Canadians it's important to note that the Conference Board of Canada rates our food safety system #1 against 17 OECD countries, including the U.S.
The government's response is too little, too late. After the largest beef recall in Canadian history, an independent review concluded that the CFIA needed to improve its inspection program. The minister failed to do that. Sending in new inspectors now to inspect the old inspectors doesn't really solve the problem. Conservatives have systematically undermined the capacity of inspectors to do their jobs. What are the Conservatives going to do to permanently strengthen our food safety system?
Parliamentary Secretary for Health.
Mr. Speaker, not only is the opposition's allegations not accurate, they're irresponsibly undermining confidence in our food safety systems. Again, it's important to note that all issues have been dealt with, and the Conference Board of Canada rates our system #1 out of 17 countries, and that includes the U.S.
Member for Medicine Hat.
Mr. Speaker, our government believes in responsible resource development. Sadly, it wasn't long ago that the NDP went to Washington to campaign against resource jobs. They have a proven record of opposing natural resource projects and refer to the oil sands as a disease. What? Our government, on the other hand, has always stood up for the energy sector. Mr. Speaker, can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Works tell this House what our government is doing to support the resource development? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Public Works.
The energy industry are alarming and extreme, and Albertans have every right to be concerned. Yes. The NDP has called for a royalty review, and it's come out against the Northern Gateway. The last time the royalty review was conducted, it cost the province billions of dollars of investment, and it cost thousands of Albertans their job. Unfortunately, the Alberta NDP are taking their cues from the federal NDP. Unfortunately, their plan would lead to higher taxes, killed jobs, and a destabilized economy in the province.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. When it comes to public safety, the Conservatives are all talk, no action, Mr. Speaker. Here's the proof. The RCMP database, which was already not up to date with multi-year delays, will see its budget cut by 10% this year alone. We're talking crucial police information. It's like blindfolding our officers. How can the minister go ahead with these cuts?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's absolutely false. This government has actually increased the resources to our national security agencies, including the RCMP. We've actually done that 7 times. And 7 times that we've done those increases, that member has voted against it. Canadians know that when it comes to supporting our men and women who keep Canadians safe, it is this government that's going to give them the legislative tools, the funding for crime prevention, and also the funding to get the job done.
Honourable member for Nanaimo Cowichan.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Police Information Centre database is being cut by this Conservative government. It's outrageous that police are being asked to do a dangerous job without complete information. It puts them and the public at risk. Why does this minister seem content to sit back and let the police operate in the dark for another 2 years? Why is he cutting resources to this modernization project when he should be doing what it takes to get that database up to date right now?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I just said, our Conservative government has provided significant funding to the RCMP. We've provided legislative tools in order to keep Canadians safe. In fact, it's this government that has passed more than 30 tough-on-crime bills to do just that. And we're also the party that has invested more than $30 million in crime prevention right across this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Ottawa Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this week, City councillors heard from people from across Ottawa concerned about home mail delivery. In neighbourhoods like densely populated Centretown, people are worried about super boxes taking over scarce green space. but Conservatives are turning their back on the people of Ottawa. For example, they've given Canada Post the power to put these super mailboxes wherever they want, regardless of what the city wants or what local people want. So they've run roughshod over the rights. So when will the Conservatives stop this reckless plan?
Parliamentary Secretary for Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remind the member that Canada Post is an independent arm's-length Crown corporation, Mr. Speaker. In 2014, they delivered 1.4 billion fewer letters than they did in 2006. The member should also know that 2/3 of Canadians currently do not receive door-to-door mail delivery. We do expect Canada Post to operate in a way that is financially sustainable.
The honourable member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, despite the scope of the disaster, the latest Conservative budget shows a total lack of compassion for Puritite victims. So instead of providing financial support for victims in need, the government has opted for pro-rich policies like income splitting and the increased TFSA contribution limits. Why, Mr. Speaker, are the Conservatives ignoring this disaster, which is now spreading to other parts of the country? And do not answer me that this is provincial jurisdiction.
As a matter of fact, it is a matter of provincial responsibility. And as you know, there is in the province of Quebec a program to deal with that. We in this side of the House believe very much in respecting the jurisdiction of the provinces. Nous respectons les compétences provinciales.
We respect provincial jurisdiction, and we have the intention to continue doing so.
Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, what do these environmental charities all have in common? The Suzuki Foundation, Tides Canada, Pembina, Environmental Defence, Sierra Club, all have been critical of this government's environmental policy, and all have received unsolicited and aggressive and unwarranted attention from the CRA. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister is going to stand in her place and with a straight face say that these are just routine audits. Why doesn't the minister use some of that $750 million to stop this witch hunt against legitimate...
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I'm a bit surprised by the honourable member's question. You know, I think he is aware that charities must respect the law and that CRA has a legal responsibility to ensure that charitable dollars donated by charitable Canadians are used for charitable purpose. I also think he's aware that, you know, CRA audits occur at arm's length. They're conducted free of any political influence or interference or motivation. And the CRA Charities Directorate acts independently.
The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Shoal Lake 40 First Nation has had to deal with boil water advisories for 17 years now, and now the ferry connecting the reserve to the outside world has been shut down. Chief Irwin Redsky says, and I quote, that without the ferry, people on the man-made island have no way to get groceries, bottled water, or immediate medical attention, and normal life on the reserve is virtually impossible. The question, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister is, what is the Minister prepared to do in order to resolve the state of emergency at the Shoal Lake 40 First Nation?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Aboriginal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our immediate priority is ensuring the health and safety of Shoal Lake residents. Our emergency management team is in contact with the community to determine the needs and identify areas where we can assist. Our government will continue to stand ready and provide any assistance that the community may require.
The honourable member for Saint-Bruno-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Space Agency's lean years aren't over yet. Despite the crumbs announced with great fanfare in the latest budget, the agency is still reeling from draconian Conservative cuts. It used to be the jewel in the crown of our industry, but now, with all the layoffs, it's struggling to retain our expertise. Is the government finally going to ensure that the Canadian Space Agency remains a source of pride?
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is a very interesting question from the opposition, seeing as the
Aerospace Industries Association of Canada had this to say about budget 2015. They said this budget, quote, is good news for Canadian companies, their employees, and our economy. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian aerospace and space industry account for more than 170,000 quality jobs and add over $28 billion to Canada's GDP. Canada's aerospace sector is one of the most innovative in the world and is a huge contributor to jobs and economic growth. Our government will continue to work with our private and international partners to ensure that Canada's aerospace sector...
Order.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Barely 2% of immigrants who settle outside Quebec have French as their first official language. That's well below the minimum support for minority French-speaking communities outside Quebec. The citizenship minister claimed the new express entry program would solve the problem. But of the 22,000 people in the pool, only 200 are francophone. How does the minister plan to meet the 4% target for francophone immigrants by going about it that way?
Citizenship and Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to promoting Francophone immigration through our permanent immigration programs across Canada under the Express Entry system. Most applications will be processed within 6 months or less. Last year alone, we welcomed almost 1,500 Francophone immigrants outside of Quebec through our economic programs for permanent immigration, and our government's goal is to increase the number of Francophone immigrants who settle outside Quebec to more than 4% of all economic immigrants by 2018.
The honourable member for Whitby, Oshawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government introduced the family tax cut, an enhanced universal child care benefit, which will make life more affordable for 100% of families with children. In fact, the average family will save $6,600 thanks to our measures. Sadly, the NDP and the Liberals have pledged to reverse these measures. Could the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment please explain what the Liberals and NDP want to take away from our families?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I want to thank the hard-working member for Whitby Oshawa for her support for Canadian mums and dads across this country. The member is right that both the Liberals and NDP have been full-throated in their outright disdain for our plan to provide more money directly to parents in Canada. The NDP leader actually claims that these tax breaks are giveaways. He doesn't think that you deserve to have the money that you earned. The Liberals and NDP want higher taxes on middle-class families. That's their plan. High taxes in the middle class. On this side of the House, we will not do that. Instead, we will continue to reduce taxes on middle-class families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saint-Laurent-Cartierville. Mr. Speaker, the budget extends copyright protection on audio recordings from 50 to 70 years, like in the US and Europe. But the government has done nothing for artists and songwriters, whose works will remain protected for only 50 years after their death, unlike the Americans and Europeans who have 70 years protection after death. Why is the Conservative government leaving Canadian songwriters out in the cold? Could they talk about singer-songwriters and not dodge the question like the minister did yesterday?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I applaud the member for at least taking a look at the budget and seeing within it that there are tons of and a lot of measures for budget for arts and for culture. We've introduced the Canada 150 Fund, and it means that we're extending the copyright term for artists from 50 to 70 years, and we'll modernize the Canadian honor system. Lots of good stuff in the budget for culture, Mr. Speaker. He should support it. I know Randy Bachman likes what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Canadian veterans played a crucial role in the campaign to liberate the Netherlands during the Second World War. They fought for freedom and Canadian values. As the 70th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands is upon us, can the Minister of Veterans Affairs please update this House onto what our government is doing to commemorate this important part of our history?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for that question. Later today, I'll be leading a delegation of over 60 veterans to the Netherlands to celebrate and commemorate 70 years since Canadians liberated that country, Mr. Speaker, and remember the 7,600 who died and sacrificed their lives in that effort. Each will have a caregiver with them, Mr. Speaker. I've been disappointed this week that in Stratford, 90-year-old Art Boone is unable to take his son as his caregiver, Mr. Speaker. There's still time for the Avon-Maitland School Board to reconsider this decision to allow a history teacher to accompany his father, who is living history, to the Netherlands.
The honourable member for St. Leonard Saint-Michel.
Mr. Speaker, last year's report from the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage, which reviewed Canada's music industry, did not raise the duration of copyright protection as a concern. Rightly so, because this is not a priority for Canadians. Unfortunately, this is a very important priority to the music industry lobbyists who met with the Heritage Minister several times last year, which is why I'm not surprised to see that the government is extending the term of copyright in this year's budget for sound recordings from 50 to 70 years. By extending the length of these copyright protections, the Minister for Canadian Heritage not realized the more money will go to multinational record companies, while Canadian consumers will pay more.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Canadian Heritage.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to acknowledge and thank the member for his question, because it reiterates the important study that took place at the Committee of Heritage and Culture, and the work that we did and the recommendations that were made with respect to the music industry helped lead to the decision to extend copyright from 50 to 70 years and protect artists across our country. And, Mr. Speaker, those in the industry are supporting us. For example, Barry Sukman, copyright and intellectual property lawyer. The term of extension and amendments will enable Canada to harmonize its copyright laws with the laws in more than 60 other countries. Mr. Speaker, we're right on track when it comes to music.
The honourable member for St. Leonard Saint-Michel. Mr. Speaker, we hear less and less talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And in Budget 2015, there's a proposal to increase copyright protection by 20 years, but there was no discussion of this. There was no request by stakeholders. The fact is, this is not a concern for Canadians currently. Can the Minister for International Trade say whether this was a strategy to pander to U.S. lobbyists with a view to the TPP?
60 countries are doing this. We certainly are in line. It's, in fact, the word pandering perhaps works on the other side of the House. It doesn't work on this side of the House. We listened to the industry. They came to committee. We made recommendations. A lot of those recommendations actually supported by the other side of this House. These measures and our government are protecting the interests of artists and their work for a much longer period of time by extending copyright from 50 to 70 years. This will protect performers, producers of sound recordings from having their copyright expire during their own lifetimes.
This concludes question period for today. The tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of International Trade, I have the honour to table in both official language the treaty entitled United Nations Convention on Transparency and Treaty-Based Investor-State Arbitration done at Port Louis on March 17, 2015. An exemplary memorandum is included in this treaty, Mr. Speaker.
Tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 36.8, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 3 petitions.
Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees. Introduction of private members' bills. First reading of Senate public bills. Motions. The Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And there have been some discussions among the parties, and I am hopeful that there will be unanimous consent for the following motion: that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, a take-note debate on the subject of Iran Accountability Week take place pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 on Tuesday, May 5, 2015, and any member rising to speak during the debate may indicate to the chair that he or she will be dividing his or her time with another member.
Does the the members have heard the terms of the motion. Does the Government House Leader have unanimous support of the House for the motion? Agreed, and so ordered. Presenting petition, motions. Presenting petitions. The honourable member for Nickel Belt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it certainly is a pleasure for me to rise again in this House to present more petitions on my private member's bill, Bill C-356, and I have 32 pages of signatures here, some of them two-sided from